Okay, can everyone hear me in the back? Is this on? I don't know if this is on. It's not on. Oops. Oh. The lapel mic is only for the recording. Yeah. It's not projecting. Okay, is this on now? Sounds on. All right, cool. Hi, everyone. My name's Denise. This is going to be a short talk, probably more in the range of 5 to 10 minutes. If you have questions throughout, feel free to throw up your hand. I'm going to try to count 3 beats in my head at the end of every slide if you have questions, but I'm very happy to be interrupted at any point throughout this presentation. So this is a talk called How to Tech Talk. I wrote this deck because some people at work kept asking me, how do I tech talk? And I was like, stop asking me so many questions, and I made this deck. So that's how we got here. So that's me on Twitter. By way of introduction, I work as a senior software engineer at Pivotal. I work on the Concourse CI team currently. I write a lot of Go, too much Go. I don't know how to write Go anymore. It's like when you get over the Dunning-Kruger, whatever. I was like, oh, I know everything. What? OK. Anyway, that was my afternoon. So I've been doing a lot of public speaking since I was 14. I also used to competitively debate, which is why I speak so fast and why I'm also going to try to remember to pause. I like to doodle. I draw stuff that's related to tech and art. I'll show you examples in a second. And my main thing is that at work and in the community, my passion is helping people get up on stage. So I really, really enjoy helping people give their first ever technical talk. So please come up to me afterwards. Please raise your hands and ask questions. Please tweet at me on Twitter. My DMs are always open. If you ever need advice or encouragement or support, or you want someone to be a test audience or to look over your slides, I'm always happy to do that. Don't be a stranger. Cool, so examples of things that I've done so you can remember me afterwards. This is a sketch note that I did with my friend Matt about the Raft consensus algorithm. I learned while doing this that Raft doesn't stand for anything. It's called that because it's a bunch of logs. Seriously, that's why it's called that. I do other stuff sometimes from books. I read the Google SRE book sporadically. I read parts of it, and I decided to illustrate the 4 golden signals of monitoring, timely, because we just watched a talk about monitoring. And I also do other things like this. I wanted to learn Istio one day, so I did this, and then some people who organized a container meetup were like, you're an Istio expert, please come to our meetup and speak about it. And I was so nervous that I went to the pub and got drunk before the talk, and I turned up and just hand waved throughout this, I don't know what this is. Anyway, so why are we here today? So this actually, I'm going to pause for some audience participation. So I want to pose a question to all of you. What are some reasons that you, or perhaps other people, or perhaps you in the future, might want to start giving technical talks and presentations? Would anyone like to share? Yes?
To correct bad practices you see. Or
Sure.
at least to give people an alternative to bad practice.
Absolutely. So to learn and to teach, maybe. To learn and teach each other. Any other reasons why it might be good to start giving technical presentations? Sure.
Forces you to learn something, then either learn it period or learn it better.
Totally. Conference talk driven learning is totally a thing that I know many, many people who do. Any other reasons why you might be excited or why you think you should be doing technical speaking? Yes, Jackie.
Building confidence and being able to do better with actually talking and presenting, as well as helping others learn and grow in knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. So public speaking is a fantastic way to build your own confidence and also to build other skill sets. So here's a subset of reasons that I came up with when I was writing this talk. So share your expertise, maybe to build your professional and personal brand, which sounds a little hand-wavy, and you might be like, oh, I'm not an Instagram influencer. I don't care about that. But within your company, this still matters. And within the tech industry. Develop communication and teaching skills, and also definitely to push yourself to learn new subject matter. And there are way more reasons. Getting over the fear of doing technical presentations will be such an asset in your journey as an individual contributor, as leadership, whatever it is you want to do in your technical career. So I have 3 tips to share with you today, and I also added in some random pictures that I drew that may or may not be related to the content, so I'll let you decide. My first tip is that there's a lot in the world of public speaking, technical speaking, but public speaking and presenting technical subject matter are actually 2 distinct skills, and you can decouple working on those skills. So what do I mean by that? Well, you don't need to work on both at the same time, because some people find it difficult to practice standing up in front of people and also trying to explain what happens in a Kubernetes cluster at the same time. But here are some ways that you can decouple those 2 things. So, I wasn't expecting that. OK, transitions. So I forgot that that was in here. So you can build your technical communication skills by practicing in a couple of different ways. First, you can try writing blog posts. Show of hands, how many people here currently write blogs? Okay, so a couple of you. If you don't do this already, this is a fantastic way to practice getting technical ideas out of your head and into a medium that's shareable. You can also try creating visuals. You can try whiteboarding. If you don't, I love sketchnoting and I'm always happy to teach people the skill of sketchnoting, but if that's not your thing, just try doodling. Try low fidelity representations of subject matter so that another person can relate to it and understand it. You can find local meetups. I know there are a number of boot camps in Toronto who are always looking for people to volunteer and come in and talk about one-on-one level topics, or even just like for you to talk about what you do, like a project that you're working on. So you can go speak at them, or you can attend as a mentor. And another thing that you can do, like every company, every team always has new people joining all the time, and being the person who's there to explain the domain or the current project to a new joiner is really, really valuable, not just for the person who joined, but also for yourself. So in terms of public speaking practice, if we're decoupling these two skill sets, ways that you can practice public speaking include, so this is a format, Petra Kucha is quite an opinionated format, but I think it's really fun. So this is a way of getting you to speak on your, sort of like think on your feet, keep things moving. It's a format where you make 20 slides, or maybe you just throw together 20 random images from the internet. You set it on a timer to auto-advance every 15 or 20 seconds, and you just speak over what it is that's on the slide. If you're uncomfortable with speaking, this is such a good exercise to get you, sort of like push you over that cliff, that edge. Toastmasters. So Toastmasters exists in Toronto. I haven't personally been, but I have a lot of friends who go, and I'm told that it's a very supportive environment. You can get feedback on your delivery skills. And finally, you can take the initiative of organizing things in an environment where you feel safe, such as your own workplace, or maybe just your own team. So within my office, there are people who organize a lightning talk session every month or so, and it's a really great way, and it's not, like attended by 80 people, it's attended by like 15 or 16 people, so it's a really chilled out environment. You can do the same if you are thinking about creating venues for yourself to practice this skill. And of course, you can practice on your own. I'll give you a tip for this later on in the presentation. So my number 2 tip is that I think a lot of people get held up by this idea, well, like, I'm not the foremost expert on Kubernetes, like, I'm not the greatest Go developer in the world. I don't think I have any business talking about this subject matter. But that's not true. You don't need to be the foremost expert to talk about something. In fact, you don't even need to be too experienced to talk about something, because there's always room for an introductory level talk, for a 101 level talk, depending on where you're submitting. I think Zach will agree that at Go Toronto, there's always room for the introductory level talk.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
So I really love this comic on XKCD, which makes me think a lot about how, like the nature of learning. So in the first panel, they say like, well, every day there are a number of people who hear something for the first time. So rather than like belittling someone for, like not knowing that thing, we should instead celebrate the fact that, well, now you get to be a teacher. Now you get to be the person who gets somebody else excited about learning this thing. And there will always be people who are in this situation in every single room that you're in. I guarantee it. So please, please never undersell yourself by thinking that like a 101 talk is too basic, or like nobody cares about an introduction talk. There will always be that audience. So another way I think about this is, I think when you are doing 101 talks, or when you're doing more technical advanced deep dives, it's important to think about what you're trying to impart to the audience. So I think knowledge is like a little bit philosophical, but knowledge has, can be categorized in a couple different ways. You have your totally unknown unknowns, where someone's like, I don't even know that that was a question that I could ask. Then you have your known knowns, which is, okay, well, I know that there's this thing that I can Google for now. And then you have your, sorry, that was known unknowns. And then you have your known knowns, which are things that you are confident about, you can explain to someone else. When I give talks, I try to move things from one bucket to the next bucket. I never try to take people from unknown unknowns all the way to known knowns. I think that's really ambitious. So the sort of introductory level talks are just about surfacing the Googleable questions. And the deep dives are taking the Googleable questions and turning them into more concrete understanding. So I also have a very unscientific rule when I design talks. I try to frame my content in a way that I believe that for 80% of what I'm going to talk about, you will have encountered it in some form. If you pack your talk with too many insights and too many new things, your audience's brain is going to reach a point of saturation. So I think if you aim for 80%, establishing the facts, getting people caught up on context, framing the context in a way that sets up your thesis statement, and then the 20% of your talk is dropping your thesis statement, nuggets of knowledge, insights, experience reports. That's a really great format. Don't worry about 80% must be brand new information that nobody has ever written a PhD thesis on. Nobody writes talks like that, and nobody wants to see a talk like that. So here's some beginner-friendly talk formats on the topic of 101 level talks. So of course, you can always write an introduction to something that you know very well, something you use every day. Experience reports are great. I really like experience report talks, and I love listening to them because you're the authority. No one's going to say, no, you weren't on call that time, that didn't happen. No, it's literally your life. And a fun way, and I think this is kind of a fun way to jump into talking, is to model a talk around kind of a BuzzFeed format, 5 things to improve your TDD skills, or 3 things that you didn't know about Go routines, but I learned at 3 a.m. last night, or something like that. So my final tip is remember to practice. Once you've written the talk, once you've consolidated your content, practice is key. The more you practice, the more confident you'll get. But also remember to be kind to yourself, because getting up in front of people is a hard thing to do. And I think most of you would be empathetic towards another person who is standing up here. But we're harsh to ourselves. We're mean to ourselves, and we expect a lot from ourselves. So here's some tips that I have for you as you're practicing. I always put the world into speaker notes because every software will let you unmirror screens that have speaker notes here and actual screen there. You can totally put the world into speaker notes until you're actually comfortable rehearsing without. You don't need to riff all the time. And the second is, if you're new to this practice, I really recommend practicing in at least 3 different contexts. So when I was, so I did a keynote talk for the first time last year, and I was really, really nervous about it because I was like, oh God, everyone in the conference is going to be watching me, and they can't leave because it'll be awkward, so I better make this talk really good. So I practiced it 3 times, once with just my immediate team, and then once with people. I opened it to the entire office. And the 3rd time, I practiced it with a group of friends who worked in the tech industry, but who I didn't work with because I wanted them to help me catch any pivotalisms that I put in or any assumptions I made about software processes. And by incorporating feedback incrementally through each of these run-throughs, my talk got much better, and the content was much more agnostic and relatable. So my personal practice secret weapon, which I alluded to earlier, is actually to record yourself with a camera when you're practicing a new talk. This is super cringy. You're going to hate the first few times you watch yourself. I guarantee you, I still hate doing this. But the best way to do it is to take your phone, prop it up on, I don't know, against the wall or something, take 3 big steps back. The reason is because you want the field of view to be wide enough that you can see your torso, and you can see your arm movements, and you can see whether you're pacing back and forth. Watch the recording and critique yourself, and keep recording yourself and keep watching yourself. Do it a few times, but don't beat yourself up over it. Recognize that we all have, weird habits. We have nervous tics and things like that, and that's okay. Those are things that we will work on. It's like if you find a bug in your application, you don't drop everything and go fix it. You triage it. You work on it when the time is right, and we incrementally improve. So be as kind to yourself as you would to another new speaker. So here's some upcoming CFPs. Also, I will I'll post these slides on the meetup page afterwards. So don't worry about writing everything down. Just some things that are coming up. Want to call out that the Go Toronto CFP is always open.
Yeah.
So in order to apply to that, you talk to Zach.
Yeah, and my proposal is just a cat. Just say hi. So, very chill.
Yep, cool. So for some extra resources, my slides will be up there. I'm also working on consolidating a GitHub repo of tips, sort of broken down tips for how to design slides, how to practice, kind of a more in-depth version of what I talked about today. And that's the piranha plant from Super Smash Brothers as a cat that I drew one day. It has nothing to do with the content. I will be speaking at GoCon Canada about test-driven development in Go, so please come to that. And that is it. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Sam, I remembered your name.
What does CFP stand for?
That's a great question. It means call for papers or call for proposals. That's when conference organizers ask people to submit proposals for the talk lineup.
Yeah, and just to add, like, even if you don't feel like you want to speak at this event, like there's tons of really great events in the city, and I'll do my best to help connect you with any of them. It's always good to see people like jumping in and doing talks. So, and that's one of the big tough things with these events is getting people to jump in and go for it. So, yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.